Well, hello everyone, Texy88 here and welcome to another retro gaming review. And now I bring you Dragon Spirit for the Commodore 64. Now, this is the first time I've reviewed a Commodore 64 game in this slew of retro gaming reviews that I've been doing. At the time of this, I've yet to find a way of being able to be able to play them. It's only because this is one of the few C64 games that allows you to play using the keyboard that I'm able to do it. I'm struggling to link any kind of joystick or joypad or otherwise controller to my computer. So anyway, on with this. As you know, I've already reviewed the Sinclair ZX Spectrum version and gave that a pretty favourable review. It was a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up in which you control a dragon and you battle your way through several levels of vertically scrolling mayhem. And one good thing about it is that the Spectrum version is what we also managed to avoid the problem of having backgrounds being so complicated that it interfered with the sprites and made it hard to see what's going on. So, given that the Commodore 64 has more colour capabilities than the Spectrum in terms of how many colours it can have in a character square at any one time, I'm hoping that will bode well for this particular version. So, let's start. It's a multi-load game, unfortunately, but then this was commonplace with a lot of the later 8-bit games, because the small memories of computers in those days did mean that there was a limit as to how much of a pretty big game they could hold at any one time. Well, one thing I don't like is that I was very nearly killed when I started the game. There was already a bullet hurtling towards me. Nice sound effects. Ooh, I've got 3 heads. Now, one thing I did notice from the title screen, which is also prevalent here, is that pressing the space button actually does both the fire and bomb. And yet you can also just bomb. But given that the space bar does both, I'm surprised they even bothered with being. Let me get. Oh goodness me! Well, while this has a bigger playing area, I can't help feeling that it runs a bit too quickly, and I'm not that impressed with the. Well, can't it even explode properly? And look at that dragon. It's not very well defined. I mean, this is a Commodore 64. I expected better than this. I mean, it's incredibly blocky for one thing. As you look there, I had no chance of reacting. I was already being bombarded with bullets by the time my next life had even started. That should not be happening. It's unfair and cheap. I mean, even the original arcade version is not that unfair. Ooh, I've got What? What the hell just killed me there? There was nothing there. Again, what the hell just killed me? There was nothing there. Oh, goodness me. And now you key in enter your initials for the high score table, but I'm not joking when I tell you that this is slower than molasses. And you can't just repeatedly tap the letter either to cycle through the letters. Oh no. And the R looks just like almost exactly like the A. In fact, the R looks more like an A than the actual A. Good Lord, look at this! And I can't do it any faster, it won't let me. And that M looks like an H. They can't even get the bloody high score table right. That X looks like an H. That is one of the worst designed typefaces I've ever known. Let's give this another whirl. Sound effects are nice enough, but good. The bullets move too... What? There was nothing there again. I have to admit, even though the C64 has better colour capabilities than the Spectrum, I am not impressed with this version. I actually prefer the Spectrum version to this version. It's more playable, it's fairer, it doesn't have those unexplained deaths. And funny enough, despite the increase in colour in this version, I'm actually finding it harder to see things in this version than I am in the Spectrum version. Normally it tends to be the other way round because of the Spectrum's tendency to use monochrome graphics to avoid colour clash. This is abysmal. Right, 2 heads and... No, this isn't a particularly good port, unfortunately. You know, graphic... It's just so dull. And a lot of those power-ups that move way too fast is the one you can even get any of them. See, look, how was I meant to get that? It was just bloody... And how did that one suddenly jump? Oh, for crying out loud. Why is it making an explosion sound effect for this fire mode? See, how was I meant to... I didn't even touch that. Sorry, I hate to say it, but I think anyone who had a Commodore 64 back in the day and played and got this for Dragon Spirit would feel quite humiliated at how bad it is. The Spectrum version is far more fun to play, and it's not. Yeah, this is fast, but fast isn't always good, and this just proves it. This is too fast at times. Oh damn it, I wish I hadn't done that. I'm going to lose such multiple heads now. Well, I did earlier in this review when I did the same. Oh, you pancake mixer. This is a disappointing port indeed. I mean, what spurred me to do this particular review is having literally just this moment seen John Gage's review of the exact same version. I'm not being a copycat. It's just that this is one of the few times I've been able to do a C64 retro gaming review because of the problem I explained earlier. Having no luck in being able to connect a controller of any kind to my computer. And I say again, what's the point in having a button that allows you to drop a bomb when the space button fires and drops bombs anyway? And I'm sure I hit that hit. Piss off! Oh, bloody hell. Oh, cock off, I didn't even touch that. That really isn't a good sound effect choice for that fire mode. It should be making us thrusting sound effect, not one that sounds more like an explosion. Oh, you can kiss my arse! One more go. I clearly hit that bastard flying, whatever the hell that thing is. God, I had no time to react to that. Again, too fast. Don't do fast unless it's still going to remain reasonably fair and playable. That didn't even touch me. I don't mind getting small mode when I've only got one head, but when I don't, when I've got 2 or 3 heads, it becomes a problem because I lose them all the moment I revert back to my normal size. Oh my god. Why do those power-ups have to move so fast, the ones that comes out of the eggs? They sort of arc around in this really awkward arc shape, and it's really hard to get. Oh my god. Well, I didn't get the S. Ah. Well, you may get a bigger playing area, but it still really doesn't help that in the Spectrum version. But that went straight through me. I'm sure it didn't. Oh, God. Really not that keen on this version. I'm sorry that compared to the Spectrum version, this is really quite poor. Well, maybe not poor. It's not that bad. I mean, there are far worse games than this. I mean, if I had a choice between the C64 Double Dragon and this would win every time, because Double Dragon on the C64, you definitely don't want to associate yourself with that one, even if you love Double Dragon, because it's so bad. The Commodore 64 version of Double Dragon is so bad that even something like Bridget or Home Runner looks like a masterpiece by comparison. At least the main sprites don't look like they've got a slit going through their waist. Oh god, these things, I remember those from the Spectrum version. What? That didn't even touch me! Oh, goodness me. The hit detection in this is abysmal. The number of times you die for no reason. What are those things anyway? They look like airborne jellyfish. Shit. Oh, bollocks. Of course, I've got to do this tedious scrolling, well, not scrolling, but cycling bit through the letters. I've said on several occasions why you can't just type in your initials on this kind of thing rather than having to scroll through. In the arcade that makes sense because you didn't have keyboards on those. On consoles it makes sense for the same reason. But I'm on a I'm emulating C64. I'm on a computer. Give me a chance to actually use its full keyboard, not have to cycle through and do all this tedious crap. So that is Dragon Spirit on the Commodore 64. A pretty disappointing conversion. and it's not really one of the system's highlight games, I'm sorry to say. I gave it its fair dinkum, but I just didn't really take to this version the way I did and still do to the Spectrum version, which I reviewed not so long ago. So graphics. Well, first thing I noticed that dragon that's in the top right corner of the title screen there has been directly ported from the Spectrum version. I mean, it's even got the top of the Dragon Spirit logo, which that red bit, which the dragon's leg is standing on. And the graphics in general within the game, while they've got the colours all seem rather washed out, especially on the ground, and the dragon and the other sprites look pretty blocky. And of course there's the actual issue with the typeface being used for this. I mean, as you saw, the X and H looks absolutely identical. The R and A are almost exactly the same as one another. In fact, in some ways the R looks more like an A than the actual A does. I mean, you can actually see R's and A's on that screen just there. Look at Dragon. Look how similar those letters are. Not good. Sound. Well, this music's good, I have to admit. It's very listenable, very enjoyable, presumably making very good use of the Commodore 64 SID chip. That having been said though, the sound in game is pretty disappointing. I mean, some of the sound effects are almost like a computerized version of someone talking before they spit. And why is it playing explosion-like sound effects when you've got the when you've got the firepower that enables you to shoot those jet-like flames in front of you? Couldn't they've had something a bit more subdued to better suit the weapon? Because having explosions that sounds more like an explosion doesn't really fit. Gameplay. Well, as you saw, if you were to look back at my review of the Sinclair ZX Spectrum version, you do get a bigger playing area in this than you did in that, because it had the display in the Spectrum version. It has the display on the right with the lives and the power, how much power you've got, as in how many hits you can take before you lose a life and so forth. And while you get to a bigger playing area in this, it really doesn't help all that much because of other problems with the game. The bullets and other projectiles are much too fast, so you barely even have a chance to react to them. By the time, in the case of bullets, the likelihood is they come very close to have actually hit you before you've even had a chance for your minds to register that they're even there, because they're that quick. And you saw a couple of occasions where I started a new life and I already had a bullet hurtling towards me. And the washed out look that I mentioned while describing graphics also causes problems, that I was actually finding it harder to see bullets on this version than I was on the Spectrum version, and that one was in monochrome for the most part. So that's actually quite a surprise. And as you saw, I also had more than one occasion where I died for no apparent reason, and where I couldn't see any bullet towards me, nor an enemy, nor anything like that. The screen just flashed slightly, and I inexplicably lost a life. And I was left scratching my head as to what had actually happened. So, not really that impressed with this version, I have to say. And the fact you can, as you can see on that screen, it says space does fire and bomb and return is bomb. Well, the fact that space fires and bombs pretty much makes return a bit redundant. Because if pressing space is going to allow you to bomb anyway, what's the point? They may as well just left the return free. Just being able to bomb isn't really all that helpful. And I can't imagine it being getting much use because of that. So no, Dragon Spirit on the Commodore 64, I'm going to give that 5 out of 10. It's a pretty disappointing and unfair port in which projectiles and bullets are too fast, and there are too many unfair deaths, and generally the overall presentation is washed out and not particularly appealing, and not to mention the graphics are quite blocky. Commodore 64 owners deserve better than this, so bit of a letdown all round really. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this review, and hopefully I can find a way of getting controllers to work so I can hopefully do more Commodore 64 retro reviews. For the time being, Techie88 out.